And we're live again. This is not Adam. This is all of a sudden Adam's been gone. We've been looking for him. Sabrina, I don't know. He turned in the Easter Bunny the other day. Didn't see him ever again. We got Justin Huisman with us today. He my college baseball coach. He's probably coached the 8 listeners of the show. I think we saw Kevin O'Donovan commenting on maybe watching. And Kyle Lassick maybe he's going to watch. A couple other people, but welcome.
Thank you.
We have lots to talk to you about. The first one, though, so you are the manager of the Lake County Corn Dogs.
I am.
Explain to people what that baseball league is. I think you guys just changed the names maybe recently again. So I think for like 10 or 15 years it was one name and now it's another league. Can you walk us through what the league is like, who's in it, what type of players are there?
Yeah, well, this will be our 4th year with the Lake County Corn Dogs. We started it 4 years ago, and we joined the Northern League at the time with teams like the Northwest Indiana Oilmen out of Whiting, Indiana, which I coached for their inaugural 3 seasons. And so we joined that league, and after a couple of seasons, we ended up going independent for one summer. And now we're starting a new league called the Region Collegiate League. And there's 4 teams currently, but it's going to grow, and the goal is to be all over the Northwest Indiana area. So in talks with other teams, other towns as well. And it's going to be a fun vision for mostly just collegiate players. So basically guys graduating high school, guys playing in college, and then if you graduate college, you can play that year as well, hoping to go pro or whatever, to have a place to play and keep going. And so it's just a great local thing for fans in the area to have players they may have followed through their careers in high school, travel ball, whatever, and in college, and to be able to root them on, and also for local players to play, and eventually if we grow enough to have players from outside local.
All right, so primarily local, I guess, as we're talking about collegiate league. So are we just drawing from the area, the CCAC conference, so like St. Xavier, Purdue, what's that, Purdue North Central, or like those types of schools, or any other?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're lucky enough with this area that, you go from a 100-mile span, there's so many colleges at every level. And so, yeah, it's mostly local now with guys, whether it is NEIA schools, we have a lot of JUCOs in the area, PNW right down the road, Valpo. And so we've had players of all levels, Division I all the way through NEIA. And junior college. And so it is a blessing with these teams. It's not super hard to fill a team. Filling a great team that can win a lot of ball games can be difficult, but we've done a good job of that so far.
I think last year you guys had a pretty good record there over at the Lake County Corn Dogs.
Yeah, we've had a good first 3 seasons, and hopefully we can keep that going. And it's great because Crown Point's been really good to us. We've had a good amount of fans and a good following, and to be able to put a good product on the field where it's entertaining to watch is great for them.
So how do you go about acquiring these players then? Is it like a recruiting process? Do they just reach out? Is it like a draft amongst other teams in the league? How do you acquire the players?
Well, it's kind of like when you're starting a collegiate program to begin with. If you don't have something to follow, like where they know you already and you're established, you're pretty much going out from scratch and just try to create a good team. And we've had a good team from the get-go with the owner, Ralph Flores, who he lives in Munster, but he knows so many people in the area. And also where I work at Great Lakes Sports Hub, Bobby Morris, who does 5-star travel ball out of there, knows so many kids that have come through 5-star, and also getting to know, obviously, get players from other travel teams. And then myself, who did a lot of recruiting in the area when I worked at Trinity, know a lot of coaches in the area. And so we kind of tag team it all. And from the get-go, we were able to get a lot of players to put trust in us that it's going to be a great place to play and express the vision. And now that we've had 3 seasons under our belt, we'll have former players who say, hey, go play there. It's a great place to play. The coach is going to take care of you, that kind of thing. And it's a good atmosphere. And so now we got word of mouth combined with returning players, combined with, finding new ones.
I was asked about the returning players. So obviously it's collegiate. So you may have these players for 3 or 4 years then. Mm-hmm.
You could, yeah. We've had some guys that have been with us from the get-go who are seniors now. And so, yeah, it's really good because then it kind of feels like a family atmosphere with the fans and also the players and coaching staff, to where you're kind of growing together and getting to know each other really well, and it becomes more personal.
So I know that a lot of these players you guys are drawing from are from, NAIA schools or some smaller schools. Do these guys get any type of like per diem or compensation? Does NIL become a problem at all and any of this stuff for you guys, or is that
no? Luckily with summer ball, it's not like that.
Okay.
They, a lot of times will pay us to play, to help cover the bills, and so we don't deal with the NIL and all that kind of money kind of stuff. This is more just a place for them to come get some more reps, to really fine tune their craft a little bit more in a little bit more laid back atmosphere. Less pressure, but also, be able to give them the opportunity to get the amount of innings they want to get, the amount of at-bats they want to get, maybe play some positions they're working on to get better. And that's my job, is just to help them and not overcoach them, but help them and give them little tips and stuff so that when they go back to their colleges, they're ready to actually earn the job on the field or earn some more money, whatever.
So they're seeing quality competition. Like there's sometimes you get into baseball or any other travel sport, and I think sometimes it gets diluted a little bit now. Every parent's got extra money, they can start their own league or their own thing or do this. So this is going to be a concentrated group of quality. I think one of the important parts of that, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand this, we were talking about this before we jumped on, like, I played for you at Trinity, and then my little brother, he wanted to go play at Olivet, and I'm like, hey man, like, college baseball, even NAIA college baseball, is a real commitment. It is a lot of baseball games in a short amount of time. But then you make that jump to maybe you get drafted or play independent league ball, and you're playing 100, 120 games in a year. So if you squeeze 45 or 50 games in between February and May, conditioning your body for the other 50 games throughout the summer is probably a very important thing to development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a grind. And I guess that's one positive to travel ball is it really shows the kids to take things seriously and it's important. Your parents are investing, good amount of money in it. And so they want you to get a good ROI, we're doing this for a reason and we want you to take it seriously. And that's where sports in general is good. Because it really does teach you not only commitment and responsibility, but it helps you deal with failure. You're going to fail if you play.
Well, I mean, baseball. I think baseball is probably the best one at that. Like
Exactly.
You're getting to the Hall of Fame when you fail 70% of the time.
That's right. And so I know a lot of people in business love having former athletes because they know how to deal with failure. They haven't been given everything. It's not handed to them. They have to earn stuff, and they go out there and get it. And so travel ball can be very good with that. And so by the time they get to me, at the collegiate level, they've had a lot of that along the way, and so that can be a positive.
What we'll dive a little bit deeper into the Corn Dogs and the Collegiate League, and then we'll talk some more economics on travel ball here. So, how many games do you guys play in the Collegiate League?
We typically schedule in the 40s, around 46 or so, with rain and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it can be lowered, but we've been pretty lucky. We've had good fields and been able to get a lot of ball games in. It's only a few cancellations per summer, so hopefully that continues. But that's one thing. I've played in summer leagues. When I was in college, I went to Ole Miss, and I played after my freshman year. I played in the Northwoods League in Minnesota, St. Cloud, and then after my sophomore year, I played in Cape Cod. And I think that was part of the draw with the owners of wanting me to come in is I've had those experiences. I can give little pointers of what I've been through, good and bad, with those. So when I was in Northwoods, and forgive me, I don't know what they do now, but we played too many games. Like it was exhausting. And so, like you said, that grind of coming off a college season and then playing summer ball. And I know they got to make money and it's a business, but sometimes it can be a little taxing on the players. And then they go back to fall ball and you're exhausted. Like I haven't had a break.
Yeah, you're 2 weeks off at Christmas, but then you can't really eat good because you're trying to come back and make sure you maintain your body weight and all that fun stuff, which obviously I never was able to do.
Cape Cod was better though. They didn't play as many games. You had to at least one day off a week. So that was a good experience.
All right. So the season starts in June then, or when does Corn Dog season start for you guys?
End of May. Last week of May. Usually we try not to start too soon because players, especially now, some of these leagues end later than they used to. So you don't want to start and have nobody, and not have enough player. What we really don't want to do is have players playing out of position and get hurt. So we want to make sure that we don't start too early, and we also don't want to end too late so that they do have a break before they go to their fall. And
then you guys play at Legacy Field there in Crown Point. Is that?
We do. Center Ross Road. It's right near Great Lakes Sports Hove, the mini dome. A lot of people know it as the former Adventure Park. The Morris family took it over 3 to 4 years now already, and really turned it into a great complex. And so that's right across the street. And the Corn Dogs, they have a relationship with Great Lakes Sports Hub, so they can work out there during the seasons. And it's been real nice.
I think you guys have a relationship with maybe Off Square Brewing too, so people can actually go grab a beer there. And
and they actually created a beer for us.
Oh,
golden batter.
I say it's better than calling it corn dog beer, I think.
Yeah, right.
All right, so you got the golden batter. What do tickets run for your guys' games?
They try to keep it family friendly, do a lot of promotions and groups and different things. It's typically around $6 to $8, I think.
Look at that! You can't even get a Subway sub for that anymore.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And Ralph Flores, the owner, has really tried to make it sure that it's family friendly. It's a fun atmosphere. I kind of compare it to like minor league baseball, where there's fun things in between innings, little games to play, like I said, promotions and different things, and beer. So it really is a lot of fun. They do a good job with it. And I think his catchphrase is building community through baseball. So they've done a good job.
I mean, you love baseball. I love baseball. So I think it's a great addition in the community. Maybe a lot of people didn't understand what it was. I know I have a lot of friends that live out here that don't. If you're not in baseball, you don't understand, one, what the grind is, but two, like how all of these other little leagues exist for certain people or certain players. So you have this, anyone that's in the region and or commutes to the region frequently. This summer, you have access to $6, $7, or $8 baseball games. For me, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-month-old. Like, it's way better doing that than dropping $200 to go see a Sox game or a Cubs game that they're not going to remember.
And the kids love it. My daughters love going. Like my 6-year-old is always asking, when does the season start? We'll drive by the field and be like, you have a game tonight? And I was like, no, not yet. It's coming soon. But it's a very kid-friendly atmosphere, a lot of fun music and area where they can play little jumpies and different things. So it's a lot of fun, and we get a lot of kids, and we sell out a lot. I mean, we get a good amount of fans. It can be 500 to 600 people sometimes, and looking to grow and continue doing that and keep it family friendly.
All right. Well, I love that. So sliding from there into some travel sports and all that, would you maybe encourage people that maybe have sons that are 12, 13, 14, 15 that have aspirations of collegiate baseball or professional baseball, probably come there and get a little bit of a taste of what a fastball looks like, a real fastball looks like, what a breaking ball looks like, and then also learn the grind? Like, are the players accessible? Are you accessible through this stuff?
For sure. And the field there, the dugouts are chain link and stuff, because it's a Babe Ruth type field. And so there's kids always around the dugout, and the players have been really good with the kids. And so talking to them, and then after the games, the kids will run bases and see the players sign autographs. And so they're very accessible, so they can become their little mini heroes. So it's really fun to watch. All
right. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that we want to talk about next is, as this is unfortunately a budget show a lot, and we talk about finances and everything there. The finances of travel sports, I think, is ballooning out of control.
It's expensive.
I think you grew up in an era where it probably was not nearly as expensive. I think my age group, it started to become very expensive. And now I talk to clients all the time, whether it's baseball, volleyball, soccer, and it's the cost of these events is just, it's like 6 or 7 vacations across the summer for a family sometimes for these things, for showcases and all of that. So as someone that has played minor league baseball, been in the show for a minute, coached a collegiate team, and then also deals with a group of collegiate players during the summer, do these showcases, like, do you need to go to 100 baseball showcases, or if you're a quality player, people are going to find out about you? What's your opinion on some of that stuff?
Yeah, it's complicated. I'll tiptoe around the travel ball because we're at work at Great Lakes Sports Hub. 5-star youth travel works out of there, and it's one of their main components in the business. They do a lot of other things as well, but there are positive negatives to everything. It's very different from when I grew up. When I was young, you played for your town, your district, your school, and that was it. There really wasn't a whole lot of travel ball.
Maybe like American Legion ball. Or
there wasn't much, and I don't think I played travel ball until I graduated high school. Right before I went to college, I played for New Lenox, and that kind of deal. And it's just it's become a big business, a big money maker. I will say that it's not all negative. I mean, it can be very expensive, but sometimes you do get a lot for what you pay for. I can't speak for all the travel leagues, but I do know with 5-star at Great Lakes Sports to have that facility at your disposal where you can obviously perfect your craft, get good coaching, but also have a place where you can learn how to work out properly, and start learning how to train properly, which I didn't have as a young age. I think, I've done a lot in the game. I'm very proud of my career, but that's one thing where if I knew then what I knew now and could have worked at it properly, I could have been that much better. And so these kids, it's not always just about getting better too. It's also about being safe and not getting hurt and injuries and that kind of thing. So there are some good things if that is included in your cost, and it is very expensive to travel and stay in hotels and do whatever you got to do. But I will say that, just because you do all those things doesn't mean you're going to get a return on it. Like, doesn't mean you're going to get a huge scholarship or play professional baseball or go to Tennessee or Ole Miss. So there is a little bit of that.
I think one thing you talked about there about like learning to work out and do things safe and do things right. Like, it's funny because I didn't learn about that until you and your brother took over my college baseball program my junior year. I look at it like, if I knew what I learned from you guys in the last 2 years of my baseball career, if I knew that stuff when I was 13 or 14, I probably had a little bit different of an outcome. I mean, I had the same shoulder. I think you and I had the same shoulder surgery at one point. I had that when I was 17 years old. Like, right. And it's because it was this, unfortunately, it was this crazy chase for velocity and a huge curveball, which is why I never could throw a changeup for a strike. And pissed you off pretty frequently. But I think that's like, we look at that and it's not all game. There's a lot of habits and a lot of practice that goes into it for people to get to the next level. And so just having the showcase game isn't necessarily the biggest return, the habit building, because how many people play in Major League Baseball? Not a lot. But how many people get to that level at some point and then spin it off into success because they had all of the discipline of learning how to do things the right way from 13, 14, 15, probably quite a few.
Yeah. Well, first off, you struggle with a changeup because you threw straight over the top, and so it's hard to get on inside. So we won't talk about the fundamentals of why you struggle with.
That's why I'm not. Don't worry, I'm not. I don't offer any pitching lessons or hitting lessons. So I think I hit 220.
But it's also why you had a good curveball because you threw straight over the top. But it is good that they learn how to train because there is velocity over the last decade. It's part of the reason why my career ended when it did, because I was not a velocity guy. I mean, I threw hard for that time, but as I was playing, it progressed into, where the average fastball used to be 92 when I was playing, to by the end of my career, the average fastball was 94, 95. And if you didn't throw that hard, you were kind of getting phased out. So it was less about pitching, more about throwing. And it's still kind of that way today. I mean, you watch games on TV, it's home runs and strikeouts, and walks. And so it's just a different game now where maybe less strategy, more just power on power. And so the players know that, the kids know that, they see it on TV. And so it's kind of, it's tough because, I mean, we could talk all day about sports in general, how it's different with football and basketball and baseball. And they're just different games now. The business side of it is different. So the money side of it is different. And so, you are chasing not just being drafted anymore. Like, you're chasing money, licensing money. You're chasing bonuses in college, I mean, so there's a lot different. I mean, one example comes to mind recently. A guy helped out in high school, turned down $1 million contract or more in the draft to go to a college. And he almost got just as much, and so it's just a different thing now. But like I said, just because you pay all that money for travel or lessons or whatever, doesn't mean that's going to happen. So it is kind of a Vegas type of deal where you're kind of gambling a little bit. But that doesn't mean you have to do all those things to get those things. And so that's just decisions you have to make as parents. Are we going to make this such a priority that our kid kind of gets burnt out possibly, and teach them what's important in life or not? Like, is this the most important thing, or is this the most important thing? Family, church, whatever, and you have to make those decisions as a family, what's best for you. For me, I enjoyed having a break from baseball growing up. And so basketball taught me a lot of things, agility, athleticism, and it was a lot of fun to have that break from that sport. And so for me personally, maybe it's old school. I think it's important to have that mental break from something. and maybe, do lessons or instruction. And so I do private instruction with people, and they take breaks and then they come back, and work on things. And so if they're playing basketball, maybe they'll come for a hitting lesson every couple of weeks or once a month, just to have that little bit of an itch scratched, but also stay on track for whenever baseball season starts. So for me, I would love to see it go back to that, where you play other things, you do other things, you give the kids other experiences, and all of those talents and abilities can portray into being a better baseball player.
And so let's go back to when you were coaching Trinity and NAIA baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Is there maybe a little bit more appeal to that prospective recruit that maybe they're a little well-rounded? Maybe they did play 2 or 3 sports in high school because they can take the break. They're maybe not all the way burnt out. I see a lot of the single-mindedness now. I'm just going to concentrate on this sport. I'm going to play 200 baseball games a year, which is pretty crazy to do in the North anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But is there an appeal to multi-sport or well-rounded athletes, or is that not, does that not matter?
In recruiting?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
For me, I don't know. I enjoyed the recruiting aspect of just being able to recognize talent and potential. Everybody's different. I was the kind of coach, and kind of had to be at Trinity, where I may not get the most talented that's already put up the numbers, but I had to look at somebody and be like, okay, I see something there, and we can work with that, and then coach them up and try to get the best out of them. And by the time they're juniors or seniors, they're fine-tuned and playing at the best baseball they've ever played. And so I had to kind of do that to win at Trinity, and we did that pretty well. When we started with you, we had 12 players, and I think the former coach wasn't able to recruit anybody, so we didn't have numbers to work with. And then when I was there with my brother Jason, we recruited a lot of guys, and so the next year we had a lot of players, but they were all young and needed work. And so it was a lot of work to coach, but we enjoyed. That's probably my favorite aspect of the game is teaching the fundamentals, and also the mental side of the game, to how to deal with failure and deal with success, all those things. And so we relish that. Not every coach is like that, where they just kind of like to manage players. We like to actually dig in and get personal and help them really get the best out of their craft.
And I think that's might come from, if we look at where, he's not watching this, so they probably won't, but like previous Trinity coach to getting you and your brother in there, you obviously played, you made it to the top, to the pinnacle. I think your brother played AA or AAA ball for like, having that level of talent, or someone that got to the highest level to bounce an idea off of or to talk to, gives you that much more credibility. And I think it allows you to then talk about the mental side of it, because like I think that part gets overlooked. I mean, everyone can lift weights. If you watch a 100-mile-an-hour fastball enough, you could have a chance of making contact.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing how to recognize the pitcher tipping when he's going to throw a curveball or a changeup is going to be the difference between you actually succeeding there. It's just those little mental things. So I've learned those 2 years. I'd go to baseball, go to a pro game, and my wife would be like, "What the hell are you like?" Well, like I see what the third baseman's letting the left fielder know what pitch is coming, so he knows that if that ball's gonna come off the end of the bat, it's spinning towards the foul, the foul line or not. Like that's that subtlety that you don't understand or you don't see in baseball because your high school coach didn't teach it, or maybe your college coach didn't teach it. It's something that I got from you and your brother, and was crazy good, and it still sticks with me. I can't wait to teach it to my son.
Yeah.
So you do, and I guess we didn't really talk about this, but you're offering lessons and all of that stuff.
I do. I don't seek it a lot,
okay.
But I do have a decent following. And if they refer somebody to me, I'll do them. But it's not something like, hey, on Sundays I do 4 hours.
So on Sundays he only does 2. You got to call me. I got to broker the deal on it now.
No, I lessons is not one of my full-time gigs. Let's put it that way. But it's something that I will do for friends and people that get referred to me. And I enjoy it, but it's not something like I want to do full-time.
Yeah.
It's a very monotonous thing, but I do enjoy working with the kids and seeing them get better and get excited.
I love that part of it. So let's end it with a little bit of a conversation about like, what does minor league baseball feel like? And it seems like it's changing a lot now. They've condensed, like there's rules about minor league housing now that probably didn't exist when you were coming up. But
no, I wish it did.
I mean, is it like, I think everyone's glimpse of minor league baseball is Bull Durham. Just a bunch of goofy people in the South. But I mean, is it for you? Was it kind of couch surfing, living with a host family, talk about like that grind so that some people can understand what it actually takes to get a real shot.
Yeah. How much longer do we have?
We go out for years at this point.
Yeah,
but,
right. Yeah, this is one of
those
things.
things. We'll have you back if we don't get through all of it.
Well, it's when people ask me all the time what my experiences were like, and so sometimes I'll just be like, just stay a fan. You don't want to know. But it was a grind, and so it is a little bit better now, but it's still a grind. When I was playing, yeah, we didn't have host families most of the places, but we would have 3 or 4 guys in a 1-bedroom apartment, where we would go to a thrift store, buy a $25 couch. God knows where that came from. There were times where we didn't have furniture. We didn't have a TV. My first season in Portland, we found a little place that was gross. And we went to Walmart, bought 3 air mattresses and slept on the floor and didn't have any money. I had a little bit of a bonus, but not a lot. And so we would buy a pizza, eat half of it one day and eat half the next day, and you get a little bit of meal money for road trips, and you would do your best to try to save as much as possible so that when you got home, you could afford to buy peanut butter and jelly.
I'm getting blown up here. Well, we have a call in on something. Let me deal with this real quick. You can keep talking. Well, I'm listening. Apparently, got to work calls. Yeah.
Well, also too, back then, if you moved up one level at a time, you were doing great. Whereas now a lot of the prospects kind of get thrown into the fire pretty quickly, and a lot of them handle it well, but some of them not so much, because the mental side of the game is pretty tough, because a lot of these guys have so much success everywhere they've been, and all of a sudden you're in the big leagues after 1 year after being drafted, and you're getting hit around or whatever, and can struggle with that. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge. I had a blessed career. I did very well. My first 4 minor league seasons, I did very well. And that's why I earned a shot with the Royals in 2004. But yeah, injuries and other business things like the velocity thing kind of ended my career before I was probably ready to be done. But isn't that a normal story?
Yeah, I think that there's so many times that we see people on a trajectory, and I don't think they always understand that, like, you see maybe 1 or 2 players on a major league team that have a very long sustained career. There's a lot of people that get there for a minute and something goofy happens.
Yeah.
Life happens.
Injuries usually, business as well. And that's what I try to tell a lot of guys too, is you can be the best, and still not get your shot. And so sometimes it takes luck, the right person seeing at the right time. And that's maybe why a lot of these parents go to a lot of these showcases and different things, is you just never know who's going to see you. And so it can be very expensive, but sometimes it just takes one person to see you and go to bat for you in those meetings, and get you what your hopes and dreams are. And so I get it, but not everybody can afford that, and it's understandable.
Yeah, it's a grind mentally, it's a grind financially sometimes. Yes, there are, there's a lot of positive outcomes that can come from it too, right? Like, Major League Baseball doesn't happen for everybody, obviously, but having your college paid for is a really good thing.
Yeah, it is good. But one thing I want to say to parents too is you got to understand, like, no scouts are going to these youth travel games, right? Really, they're just waiting until you get old enough to where they can see that you have potential, and now it's earlier, sometimes it's sophomore year of high school. So it's way earlier than when I played and when you played probably too. But the youth travel is to really grow and to create a foundation for you when you get older. So just understand that, like, don't make it life or death when they're 11 years old. Get better, teach them good skills, good life lessons, and really start to perfect that craft as they get older and their bodies mature. But don't make it life or death too early, and the kid get burnt out and lose the love for it.
All right. So you guys hear that? 11, 12-year-olds, you don't need the showcase yet, but 13, 14, 15, maybe. So we'll talk about the college stuff real quick, and then we'll get out of here. If you have a son that's 14, 15, 16 years old and thinks they want to make that jump from high school to college, and maybe they're not getting calls after showcases, they're not getting letters, they're not getting picked for higher level teams, does it hurt for them to maybe reach out to a coach at a college and say, hey, I'm kind of interested in your guys' program, send them some tape, send them some stat lines? How does that work for the person that's not going to be getting, not the 5-star or the 4-star, but maybe like the 2.5 or 3-star guy?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. When I was at Trinity, typically if a kid like filled out an interest form on the website or whatever, and also followed up with an email with a link to a YouTube or whatever, then I would say, okay, this kid's serious. If you send me a blast from like a website that goes out to every college coach in the country, and you can usually tell what those look like. I very rarely open those, because as a coach, especially if your program gets better, you get a lot of emails. And don't get discouraged if you get lost in the mix a little bit, or if they don't respond to you, because it's a lot. There's a lot. And so, but if that happened and I would be like, okay, this kid's serious. Let me just take a quick look. And I've gotten some players that way. And with technology now, with those videos, it's really easy to get a quick look at these players. And so, maybe you don't need to go to all those showcases, but maybe have those handful of schools that I'm really interested in these schools, and really be persistent and make it easy for the coach to get a quick look at what you're doing out there, and the potential and the skills you might have.
And with NAIA schools, I'm going to guess that it probably helps grades. Anytime you can supplement the athletic scholarship with money from other pots, probably helps maybe a little bit more of an appeal to a coach.
It helps, yeah. And at Trinity, that was one thing when we came in, and that's one of the struggles we had at Trinity. You touched on it, with us having the experiences we had, and the coaching we've had, and the playing experience to an NAI school that hadn't had any success really, and really didn't take sports that seriously. We were coming in with these big mindsets of what to do, and that was a challenge of not just with you players, we're taking it seriously. Like, I don't know how many times you remember we were like, that mindset needs to go.
Yep.
Like, this is a new mindset, take it more seriously. And that was difficult for the first couple of years with some guys, because they kind of wanted to treat it like a club sport, and the administration did too. And so we came in with this bigger mindset and had to go through some growing pains to get to where Trinity eventually got a handful of years later, which is taking it a little bit more seriously. And that's okay. That it's okay to take sports a little bit more seriously. Doesn't mean we're taking away from the academic side, because that is the most important thing. But at the end of the day, sports can be important as well.
Yeah. We would get our, kicked in by St. Xavier and Olivet pretty much every year. And now those programs compete, Trinity competes at that level now. I don't follow them nearly as much as you probably do, but I think that's one of the things that parents maybe don't always realize. We're talking about this. I got a dose of I'm not playing professional baseball when I was 16 years old. I was at a showcase event. My grandpa will still talk about it. Troy Tulowitzki played third base on our team for one game. I would have had a 0 ERA my entire life if I had that guy running into all over the place, throwing piss rods across the diamond and get people out. But watching him take batting practice, I was like, all right, like this, I need to pivot, adapt, and figure out a way to get my college paid for. I think that's a level of maturity that, sometimes kids don't necessarily have, but I think that you can get a good taste of it for $5 or $6 at going to a Corn Dogs game and like sit behind the home plate and watch what a fastball looks like.
Yeah.
And then go, okay, can I hit that? All right, now here comes a curveball.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Justin, you want to talk about? Anything else we need to cover?
Well, I was just going to say along those lines, I think that's why a lot of players and families like to bring their kids to me. And I always try to be a coach where I was honest with the guys, and everybody has different goals, and that's totally fine. And I've had parents come to me and I'll ask them, what's the goal? And they're like, we just want them to make the team, and have fun and be, enjoy doing because he has some success. And be like, great, let's go for it. Other guys, I'll be honest and be like, this guy's got potential. You just got to stick with it, and as a coach, sometimes it's difficult because that honesty can hurt feelings, and a lot of people don't want their feelings hurt anymore. But it's okay, and so if they can handle me being honest with them, then we can be like, okay, now we pinpointed the problems. Now here's how we're going to fix them. And sometimes you'll have coaches too that'll be like, here's the problems, and then walk away, and I don't do that. I don't tell anybody, hey, you're doing this wrong without following up with here's how we're going to fix it and do it right. And let's just stick with it. And I also say, hey, it's going to be hard. Like you're not going to like it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel weird. But you just got to trust the process. And I think if you do that enough as a coach, then you can build that trust, and the players will really respect it. And coaching can be a very thankless job. As you may know, and you've had teammates. I've had so many come up to me like 5-10 years later and be like, you were right. You told me at the time, I didn't want to hear it, or it was difficult to hear, or I didn't really think it really took that much hard work. He's like, but you were right. And then when I got in the real world, and that was honestly, with my faith and everything, one of the main things I wanted to do for you players is just to prepare you for life. Like, hey, you can't be late one time with your real job or you're fired, so don't do it here. Start setting some groundwork for responsibility. And it's very difficult, but like I said, 5-10 years later, if they say thank you, then I've done my job, and it makes me feel good.
That's something that I don't know. There's that maybe not a quantifiable thing, but the last 2 years of my baseball career were goofy. We had no players on a team. I think there was maybe one doubleheader where I was the closer in both games at one point. It was a ton of fun, but like,
which
I was
probably not happy that you did that.
Oh, probably not. Well, if O'Donovan's watching, he was probably screwing around.
Yeah, that poor guy. He had to throw complete games.
But I think that's the one thing that parents really, really need to understand too, is setting the goal, having a realistic approach to the goal, and then just knowing that there is accessible people that will tell you what it's like and what it actually takes, and how much it actually probably hurts sometimes when you finally get there, and then it's like, well, you're throwing 92, 93, and we need you to throw 95, 96. Like, it's a constant churn, but having the realistic approach and then getting the life skills. Like I said, I've learned the last 2 years of my baseball career under you and your brother, learned more about baseball and actually like having some self-respect and discipline that I maybe didn't have before that, because was in a rowdy program that didn't have any direction. So that's the things that you can get from collegiate baseball, even from Babe Ruth and Pony League and all of that stuff. But one, thanks for coming on. I definitely want to have you back on, maybe get a player or two. Get out there, support the Corn Dogs. They're bringing baseball, it's building a community. Your kids will love it. They'll get access to things, and you have someone that genuinely cares about the sport and the community right in the community. That's all we're about over here, is helping people with budgets and the community.
Absolutely. Budget friendly, family friendly. It's a lot of fun. And Crown Point's been really good to us, and it's a great atmosphere. People love coming and watching the game. So,
all righty. We'll make sure we share all the links. Appreciate you hopping on, and we're out of here. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. I don't know what we're talking about. Probably something fun.
I'm done. Cut the show.